Hello model railroad fans, welcome to Vintage Road and Rail. In my last video we took a look at a number of locomotives I picked up from various sources and gave them a test on the track to see which ones worked and which ones didn't. And we had a bit of a mixed result on those. Some worked, some didn't. And that brings us to this Tyco Spirit of 76 C430 locomotive. This was one that went in the didn't work category. It looked like it wanted to. You put it on the track and the light come on, and if you kind of gave it a little bit of a push, it seemed like it wanted to move, but it would move like about a half an inch and then stop. And the other issue that it had was this coupler had popped off of the back. I really can't put this one back on because you see how it has this little tang or this little prong sticking down. One is broke off and that would let it snap in there. So we're going to do a little bit of a workaround until I can find another one of these. I could probably glue it on, but I just don't know how well that's going to hold. But I do have an idea. It's kind of a workaround. It ain't the best, but it'll work. So let's go ahead and get this camera mounted on a tripod, and let's get this locomotive into the engine cradle. And let's see if we can get this thing serviced and up and running. So give me just a moment and I'll be right back. Alright, so we got our locomotive in the engine cradle here, and I'm going to start first by disassembling the back truck. Now I'm not going to actually remove the truck from the body. The main thing that I want to do is just to get this cover out and take the wheels off, and we'll kind of lubricate under where these wheels go and get these wheels cleaned up, and then we're going to move over to the front truck. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this popped off, and to do that there is a little spot right here. Let me point at it with my screwdriver. Right there, there's a little slot. So what you want to do is get yourself a really small screwdriver like this, and we're going to put that in the flat way. If I can see, need a little better lighting. And we're just going to kind of pry out just a little bit, but be careful because this can break fairly easily. So you heard, give a little pop, so it's come loose, and then it just pops out like so. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to take these wheels out, and I'm going to set them on the truck. And like I said, we are going to get these oiled up. Mainly just put a little bit of oil here so that they'll spin fairly smoothly, and then we'll get these wheels cleaned up a little bit. But we're going to set that to the side for the moment, and then we're going to move over to this front truck, and we're going to pop it off the same way, except it's going to be just a little bit different. One is this one has a screw, so let's go ahead and remove that screw out of there, and let me move this up just a bit. Excuse me. Tell you what, let me switch to a little bit wider blade. I am not a fan of flathead screws. And I don't know if you really need to have this screw in here, but the locomotive came with it, so we're going to keep it in there. Alright, so we'll switch back to this smaller one, and then we're going to pop this off the same way, but this time I'm going to go from the back here and just pop this up. So just get a little bit of a hold on it, pull back just very carefully. There, we hear our little pop. And then kind of have to, it's being stubborn. I took one of these apart before, it didn't do all that. There it goes. Alright, and just kind of work this out. Part of the problem is I'm trying to see over the camera and through the camera to get that out. Alright, so we have that out. Sorry that took a little longer than I'd planned. Alright, so now let's remove these wheels. This is the first time I've ever videoed doing this, so it's very interesting. Alright, so let's move this cradle out of the way. At this point in time, it'll just be more in the way than of help. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my little bit wider flathead here. And we're going to reach under here and just twist up ever so slightly. So just reach under there, and out it comes. Alright. And we don't have a whole lot of slack, partly because this other piece stayed in. So let's pop that out. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to then get under here. Don't have a lot of slack, so, and I don't want to pull this loose. I don't want to have to whip out the soldering iron. So let's just pop that loose. Alright, so we're going to give these gears and everything just a little bit of oil. And this is the oil I use, and it has one of these little needle applicators. And we don't need a lot. And so I'm going to put just one drop right there. Don't want to put too much. And I'm going to put a little oil right here, so that will all kind of sink in. And we'll put just a little bit right there. Alright, and now I'm going to very carefully get a hold of the motor and the locomotive and try and flip them around. Like I said, I do not want to pull these wires loose. And there's a little bearing, a little right here, but put just a drop, because you don't want to get it all over that commutator under there. And that's it. Alright, so let's flip this back around here. Man, I got oil on my table. Alright. So now, I do wish I had more slack to work with. Let's just reattach this. Alright, I apologize. I stopped the video briefly while I reattached that. It was being a pain. But I've got it attached. No problem. It's not as difficult as it was being for me. It was more that I was just working kind of with the camera in an odd position. So I'm going to zoom out just a little. There we go. Alright. And let's see if we can get a closer look at this. Now, I've seen some people put a little bit of oil on here just to kind of keep it moving freely, so I'm just going to put a little bit on there. And then I'm going to do the same on this side, like so. Not putting much, just a drop or so. And that's just to kind of help it move freely. Alright. And now let's just snap this back on. So we got it good and oiled up. Okay, and we're not on there yet. There it goes. Alright, so we've got that on there. And it's turning pretty freely. So let's go ahead and pop the truck back in. And there we've got it. Alright, so let's go back to our cradle. And I apologize, I've only done this a few times myself. So you're getting this from the rookie perspective. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a little oil right here on these bearings. Not a lot, just a little bit. On the bearing, not on the bottom of the truck. And we're going to do the same over here, but we only need to do 2 axles instead of the 3. Alright, so I forgot and left my Q-tips over on the other table. So I'm going to hit stop for just a moment, grab those, and I will be right back. Alright, so I've got my bottle of alcohol here, and I've got my Q-tips. There's one of the Q-tips. I'm just going to dip that in the alcohol, and I'm going to use that to clean these axles just a little bit. And you can see some nastiness coming off of there. So I'm just going to give these a little bit of a wipe down. And I'm also going to just kind of rub the inside of the wheel. Let me make sure you can actually see. And that's pretty much all there is to that, just giving it a little bit of a cleanup. And I'm going to do this to all 4 axles. So there's no point in boring you with seeing me clean those, so I'm going to stop the video, clean those up, then I'll show you the next step. Alright, I've given all those axles a nice little rub down and removed quite a good bit of grime off of them. They weren't too terrible, but they weren't exactly clean either. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is for the back trucks, these wheels, I'm going to give them a little bit of a kind of clean the junk off from the oxidation, but I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper. This is like 1,000 or 1,500 grit sandpaper, so it shouldn't be too bad. And basically all I do is, you don't need a lot because it's sandpaper, but just, and I fold it like this so that I can also kind of get there on the edge and just kind of work my way around. Like I said, you don't have to do a lot. As it's sandpaper, it gets a lot really quick. And then when I'm done, I just kind of wipe any, oh, you can't see that, wipe any residue or anything that's off, that might be on there off. And you can see it looks a bit shinier. Let's see if we can get a comparison here of the old one. So you can see that it's shined up a fair bit. So let's go ahead and do the other wheel. Excuse me. Now I do have a fiberglass pencil, but for this it would just take forever. Let's rotate it around. And that should have it. Alright, so I'm going to zoom back out, and let me put the top back on the alcohol and get that out of the way. Yeah, let's set our trucks to the side. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop these back in place. They've got a little bit of oil on there. We're going to drop these back in place. But this that we pulled off the back, we're going to move to the front. However, make sure that this part here faces forward, because this is where your coupler pocket would go. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to move forward here. Let me tilt this just a bit. And I've got some of this label grease here. And what I'm going to do is put just a little bit right here on these gears. Okay, I'm going to take it out of camera just so that I can see and not get it all over the place. And you don't need a lot, because when you run the locomotive, it's going to spread around all the gears. And I'm going to do this on all the wheels. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that little shiny bit. I didn't put a lot. So when I put it on there, I have the grease facing down. And I'm going to do the same thing to this little guy here. So just putting a little bit of this grease on there, not a lot. These are plastic parts, so you shouldn't need a whole lot of it. Metal parts would need more, but I still think it's some people won't put grease on here, but I still think it's a good idea to do so. Any friction you can eliminate is going to be a good thing. Alright, and our last one here. And if you noticed, I have not run the sandpaper on these wheels. I'm going to try something a little bit different. See how this works. Kind of let the locomotive do the work for me, if you will. Alright, and again on all of these, I kind of have the grease facing down towards the gears on the side of the motor. Alright, so next thing is we're going to put our cover back on. Now this can be a little bit tricky, so make sure it kind of snaps in on the front and is down good and solid, and then just give it a push, and you heard that click. But see, on the front it wants to be stubborn. Alright, now let's put our screw back in there. We'll move this forward a little bit. You want to make sure it's down all the way, but don't crank it down really tight. You don't want to strip it out. Alright, now we're going to put this on the back. So I have to do a little bit of fidgeting to get this. Well, that went easy enough. Alright, so you don't have a screw to help you out here. So make sure you lock it down completely. And there she goes. Alright, so she's on there good and solid. Alright, so now what we're going to do is, like I said, I still need to put a little bit of sandpaper on these wheels here. So I'm going to hook up some power, let the engine run, and let it do all the work. So because only the front wheels drive, the back wheels are just for power, I'm going to use these little alligator clips. And I'm going to clip one right here to this wheel. And then that way I should be able to just touch this. Or so I say. Did I plug it up? Okay, so we got some life there. So let's go ahead and put the sandpaper on here. Hope my hands aren't too much in the way. Alright, so it looks fairly clean. Let's move on to the next one. And let me get some fresh sandpaper here. Alright, let's see how she's running. Well, it seems to be running pretty good right now, so let's put her on the track and see how she does. So I'm going to stop the video. Alright, we're set up on the track, so this is going to be the moment of truth. So I'm going to go over here and give this locomotive a little bit of power. Let's make sure it's in forward. And let's give it some throttle. Our light's lighting up. And she is moving. That is much improved. So let's bring her back. Because before, I think I hung up on the switch. Yep, I did. And I don't know why I did, but I did. Alright, so let's get back on the track here. I missed my little railer. Alright, sorry about that. I may need to adjust that coupler height a little bit. So I've got some cars here that we're going to hook up to, and yeah, I definitely think I need to adjust that coupler height. So let's just pull these. And there she goes. Alright, she's pulling. Let's give her a little more throttle. Still a little bit stuttery, but I think a lot of that's my track needs some cleaning over there. But it's definitely running a heck of a lot better than what it was. I mean, before the light would come on and it would kind of stutter a little bit, and that was about it. And I think too, as she warms up, she's going to perform a little better. Lord knows when the last time she was run. Alright, well, we got this Spirit of 76 locomotive running. She is pulling pretty good too, 4 cars and a caboose. I apologize for the length of the video. Haven't worked on too many of these. They say practice makes perfect. So I'm going to definitely keep working on these. So there'll be, some of these others will be in future videos. So if you want to see me learn and grow and work on these locomotives, hit that like button, subscribe, because I've got many more coming. Alright, well, if you have this locomotive, leave some comments below. And let me know what you think of the Spirit of 76. Alright, well, thank you very much for joining me here at Vintage Road and Rail. Happy model railroading, guys. Take care.